Right, hello everyone, good evening. We hope you guys are all well today. I've got Chris with me today. How you going, mate?
Hi, how you doing?
Lovely. We hope you guys are all well too. Now today, isn't it great? It's our last lesson of the first semester. All of a sudden, 10 weeks are gone just like that. So it's our 10th lesson. However, I've got a bit of a surprise for you guys. Next week, what we're going to do a wrap up. As you know, we don't stop these lessons. Even though the 10 lessons are finished, the first semester is going to be finished at the end of this term. What we don't do is we don't give a break. We just keep going. So what we're going to do next week is we're going to have a little tea party. And a little tea party is like this. We're going to have a question and answer session. So bring your tea, coffee, cakes and biscuits or whatever. We're going to have a nice relaxed lesson and we're going to have some feedback. We're going to discuss. If there are any questions you have with respect to anything we studied, you can ask them through so we can really get everything out of the system in next week's lesson. And I've got another nice surprise for all the lovely people out there, which is you, by the way, is we're going to use a special software in the upcoming lessons. Okay, so it's very important to know how to use this software, which is very simple because all you've got to do is just click the link. So what you need to do though, it's a good idea to take a look at this software. It's called zoom.us. Okay, now what we're going to do next week is we're actually going to meet, okay, literally. So up to now, all of you guys could see us, but we couldn't see you. It was a bit of a frustration because we'd love to see you on the screens and see who we're studying with. So next week and onwards, we'll be able to have that opportunity by using this software called Zoom. Now, this is a very practical software. When we start next week in the chat box, what they're going to do is they're going to put a link, and all you have to do is click on the link to open the Zoom meeting. And once you open the Zoom meeting, what you'll need to do is just press your camera if you'd like to be on the screen with all of us, and mute your mic. You mute the mic, but you keep your camera on. You press the link, and then we'll be able to see you guys on there, and you'll all be able to see each other on there as well. Isn't that great? So that will mean that in a virtual environment, we'll all actually get to meet each other. And you'll see that studying together in a virtual environment is really no different than all being together in the same place. So it's very important. So take a look at the website Zoom. You might want to zoom.us. You might want to download the application. It's got a phone application as well, which is also very good because if you're out and about and if you can't make the lesson, if you're out in traffic or whatever, what you can always do in the second semester, now that we're all going to be using this software actively, is that you can put it on your car, you can just turn it on and you can just listen to it. If you're on the way home or if you're on the train or the bus or whatever, you can just still be in there because you got your microphone on mute, but you'll be able to listen to us. So those were the two good news I had.
And it's free.
Oh, isn't that lovely? Extra bonus for that. Great. Okay, so there we go. Now today, if you've got any questions as usual, please send them through on our chat box, and then we'll answer those questions. Today what we're going to do is let's take a look at do a 2-minute recap on what we did last lesson. So remember, in the last lesson we spoke about the right line, the left line, and being in that free will zone. Also in the 8th lesson as well. So what was that actually? The inner work, and how we needed to. Let's work actually from the 8th lesson. When we started studying free will, we said that in life we can only have a free choice if we're left in between two exact opposite forces. And in our world, one is our corporeal existence, and the other one is the dot in the heart. That's the state where our initial freedom of choice starts, because we're left in the dilemma of one wanting to get spiritual, as you'll recall, and the other one wants to get physical. So all of the physicality, all of the corporeal desires on one side, and my spiritual inclination on the other side, and the whole world is sporting my corporeal desires, the whole world, And when it comes to spirituality, well, if you don't have an environment that supports your spirituality, you get just drowned in the rest of the world who's trying to get physical. So what we did was we talked about an environment, which is a spiritual environment, and that's what B'nai Baruch is for all of us. And in that spiritual environment, we talked about having to grow spiritually, and our free choice was whether I wanted to give more importance to corporeality or whether I wanted to give more importance to spirituality. Without obviously, sacrificing my worldly necessities for my existence. So we have to work, we have family in this world, we need to take care of our health and so on. The things that we do need for our corporeality, we maintain. On top of that, we add spirituality. But in our hearts and minds, we feel that spirituality is more important. So the importance isn't necessarily I'm putting more hours into it. No, the importance means at an emotional level that this is more important for me. And after that, what we said was once a person comes into the environment and starts to study with us, then that person enters there with a dot in the heart with all the other friends in there. So all of us have a dot in the heart which has an inclination to go towards the Creator, want to attain the meaning of life. And when all of us come to study together and we direct ourselves to that goal, which is the Creator, and the Creator is the attribute of love and bestowal. And what we need to do then is to work together, try to attain these attributes, love and bestowal, so that we can resemble the Creator. And that resemblance is actually inside the connection between people. I mean, how can you really come to any trait, any significant change in your nature if you don't practice, if you don't try to do things that will make you change your nature? So this is what the spiritual environment is, or we can call it B'nai Baruch. And through that, a person can, what we call, attract the light of the Creator. The light of the Creator is basically attaining wisdom through the study and through the experiences that we go through in the group. And through those experiences, just like we change in life, we change for the better in our spiritual development, and we become a vessel that can bestow to others. And not necessarily by forcing ourselves to do that, by actually wanting to do that because we feel that caring is far more pleasurable than actually receiving and having a miserable life in the state that we're currently living in. Because imagine a life where you have friends around you that care about you and you care about them and everybody gets along just fine. And then imagine an environment in the 21st century, like, well, for example, at the office or whatever, and everybody's in a backstabbing mode, all right? Because everybody wants to, eat you up alive and step all over you. So it's basically this two different environments, and one is bestowal and spiritual, where people care about each other and they want to help each other to get to the purpose of life. And our corporeal environment is very, very straining because our egoistic nature just makes us eat each other up. Okay, and this is why a lot of people get cancer. Just like cancerous cells. Cancer cells eat each other up, and humanity is also eating each other up. And we talked about the inner work, and the inner work that we talked about last week was all about the sensations that a person goes through, and all the emotional states he goes or she goes through while studying inside the group here. So all our inner work is related to spirituality, which is within the connection between us in the group. And then one can go through a bunch of emotions, and then through all those emotions and impressions, one can begin to decipher what egoism really is, what bestowal is, what the difference between them are. And that way I can begin to delve deeper into myself, and from that deep contemplation, that deep meditation of who I am, what I am, I can begin to now take care of segregating my desires, what I want to do with my desires, how I want to use them, if I want to use them at all or not use them at all. I can begin to really discover the good and the bad in me, so I can know what to do with them. In essence, there is no bad inside of us, or anything negative, but there are just things that we need to see so we can know the right way to use something. It's like making something negative a positive thing. And that's what all these emotions and impressions lead us to do. It allows us to discover ourselves, and from that inner discovery of what we truly are, which is an egoistic desire to receive, we can then start to build an opposite state, which is love and bestowal, because our egoistic nature is completely opposite to the Creator, right? Which is love and bestowal. It's completely opposite. It's egoistic and reception, self-love and reception, or you could say. And we discover how much egoistically receiving that we do, and then on top of that we can build the opposite state. But I can never know what love and bestowal is unless I discover the truth, and this is going to be the truth that hits us first. So that's what we talked about. All those impressions that we'll get in the group will lead us to see our true nature. Once we see the truth, we can then work on making that better and start turning that into love and bestowal inside the environment. Okay, a spiritual environment that we are all going to build with our free choice. Now, on top of that, this week, what we're going to do in our last lesson is take a look at the whole of human development from the beginning of time. As you know, from a historical perspective, there are only two forces in nature, and the whole of humanity, in fact the whole of creation since the Big Bang, has been just a battleground between two forces. The whole of reality has always been a battleground between two forces, the negative and the positive. So on the one hand, we have the Creator desire to bestow. On the other hand, we have the desire to receive. And those two forces in nature are always in conflict, giving creation what we call a state of balance, because balance can only happen between two forces. And accordingly, in order to balance everything out, we have to have an infinite positive state. Let's call this the infinite positive, and an infinite negative situation. And man has to build, when I say man, obviously I'm talking about all of us. We have to create this balance right in the middle of everything. And once we do that, we can have a really great life in this world, right here in this world. We can actually make our world a heaven for everyone. And the reason it's hell for everyone right now is because our egoistic nature doesn't want to share. It doesn't want to give. Although we have a lot of food that can, really satisfy and satiate everybody in the world. We can provide everyone in the world with all their needs: housing, food, water, clothing, everything. With the technology that we have now, nobody needs to be hungry. However, our egoistic nature doesn't allow us to share. So we go through a lot of strife and a lot of problems because of that. So today what we're going to do is take a look at how we developed through thousands of years, and how this conflict all started out. Maybe I'll just do it on a new page. Okay, so here we go. So the whole of creation started with the Big Bang. Yes, the scientists did get it right, but about 2,000 years later than the writers of the Zohar. In fact, the writers of the Zohar have been talking about this. In fact, Ari, in his Tree of Life, and in fact, in his poem about creation, has been talking about this, how the world was created in a Big Bang, and how two forces between hot and cold. We're always in conflict and strife within each other, and through that strife, through that constant struggle between hot and cold, the whole universe and our planet, in fact, was created. Just from a little minute bang, the whole of creation all of a sudden was created about, what, 14, 15 billion years ago, as scientists are saying. And then, shall we draw that? Shall we draw this? All right, let's draw. Will it make it easier on you guys? Let's draw it. So what do we have? We have the Big Bang. Oh, we can call that BB as well, Big Bang. Okay, and that was like 14 billion years ago. 14 billion years ago. And then from that Big Bang, what happened is the whole universe started its creation, and also our Earth, our planet Earth, was also created. And what happened is really interesting, because the still level started to develop, and it took like hundreds and thousands of years until the still level completed its development. Now, still level meaning the lifeless level, like the stars, the planets, the mountains, the rocks, and so on. The still level took, literally millions of years to develop, and the next level could not have developed until that level was completely, finally over. So from the beginning of creation, the Big Bang, 14 billion years, and then to about 3 or 4 billion years ago, let's just draw that here, first life began. Life, 3, 4 billion years ago. And since then, we have been developing in this world the continuation of our whole history. So life on Earth started to develop as well. From the still level, we moved on to the vegetative, we moved on to the animate, and about 8 million years ago, 8 million years ago, we had the first apes. All right. Now, is there evolution? Yes, there is evolution. Of course there's evolution, not quite as Darwin theorized it and wrote about it, but of course there is evolution. Evolution has to happen. Our whole human development is one evolution. So the whole of creation is also based on evolution. It has to evolve. First the still level, then on top of that the vegetative level. In fact, between the still and the vegetative level, there's a mid-level. Let's call it here. And that's the corals. Okay, so corals are half plant, half rock. So from the still level, moving on to the vegetative, there was the development of the corals first, and then from the vegetative to the animate, we have a level called the field of the dog. The dog of the field, actually, what am I saying? Oops, no. The dog of the field. Now, I'm not quite sure if that's the correct word for it in English. The dog of the field.
I think it is.
It is actually half animal, half plant. It's an animal which, from its cord, from its navel cord, is connected to the soil. So it has the moving capacity, but it's still connected to the soil. So that's between the vegetative and the animate. And then we have the apes. Now, apes are the middle for development of man. So before man was developed, ape was the was that chain in between, because everything also has a level in between. And from there on, oops, can I have a tissue? A few? Thanks. There we go. Sorry about that, my throat is a little sore. And from there on, we have the development of, afterwards, the first Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens. All right, there we go. Homo sapiens. And that's about, what, 150,000 years ago. 150, let's call that 1,000 years ago. And since then, human species have been developing. And as we discussed in our previous lessons, our whole development has been within nature, with the egoistic desire to receive at an increasing linear level, until all the way up to 1995. Then what we have here is, then we have a very interesting situation. Let's actually do this. Let's make this, let's write it as Homo sapiens, and I'll tell you why. Homo sapiens. About 150,000 years ago. And then we have a very, very nice personality appearing on Earth for the first time ever. His name called Adam. And that was like after a while. Let's do this. So after quite some time, and after about 5,000, we're in 5,778, yeah?
78, I believe so.
5,000, we're in year 5,778, so minus 5,778 years ago, a very special gentleman by the name of Adam, bless you, appeared on Earth. Now, Adam we call the first man simply because he was the first man to discover the Creator. But all the generations before Adam, from Homo sapiens onwards, were also human. So in religious books, sometimes they say, well, Adam was the first man that was created, and before him there were no other men. All right? That's a complete misunderstanding on the side of religions. Well, what can you do? Huge misunderstanding for thousands of years, unfortunately. So Adam, 5,778 years ago, was the first person to discover the Creator, and that's why his name was Adam, because Adam comes from the word in Hebrew, la Adam, means to become similar. And he named himself after he discovered the Creator, and he said, I want to be like the Creator. And Adam means to be, want to be like the Creator, actually. Adam, I'll be like you, in other words. And that's where the name comes from. So it also means man. So man is actually a spiritual level, and Adam was the first person spiritual on the planet who discovered the Creator. And from then onwards, humanity have been developing on two lines, one on a spiritual line and the other on an egoistic line. So until Adam, everything was pretty much in the hands of nature. Well, everything still is in the hands of nature, but nature had an additional state with Adam, because now humanity from Adam onwards could develop not just on the plane of this world, but also on the plane of another dimension while still living on the planet. So from Adam onwards, there were two layers of development. One corporeal, while still living in this world, they also discovered the spiritual. Discovering spirituality, obviously, is discovering the Creator and His attributes, so that a person could live in those attributes while also maintaining his life inside his body with the 5 senses. And since Ari, a lot of Kabbalists have come through, including Noah, including Abraham, Moses, whatever, how many were, all of them, Aaron, David, Solomon, and then we've got, let's jump forward a little bit, we've got the writers of the Zohar, we've got the writers of the Tree of Life, which is just Ari, and then we have Baal HaSulam, and then we have Rabash. Okay, so we have a whole chain of Kabbalists from generation to generation, thousands of them in fact, but the prominent ones are these because they gave us the fundamental books. All right, and from then onwards, in those generations, thousands of Kabbalists, thousands of them, were scattered throughout the generations. There we go. All along. And now, where are we at? We're at 1995. Okay, so let's make this Rabash. Let's make this Baal HaSulam. Let's make this the Ari. Let's make this the writers of the Zohar. And then, you know, all the way back to Adam. And those are the sources that we really use when we're studying Zohar. Oops, let's make this another color so it's a bit more prominent. Okay, so Zohar, the Tree of Life by Ari, Baal HaSulam's writings, which are also commentary on the Zohar and the Tree of Life, and the articles that he wrote, plus we have the articles of Rabash. So there we go, we've got Rabash, which we're going to start studying actually. Then we've got Baal HaSulam, which was before him. Then we've got Ari from the, what was it, 15th century, yeah, Ari, 400 years ago, or the 16th century. And we've got the writers of the Zohar from 2,000 years ago, after the temple was ruined, the second temple, from the ruin of the second temple. Now the whole process, though, this development is really interesting, because up to a point, what happened was, up to Adam, what happened was we developed the still, and then once the still finished completely, we developed the vegetative. Once the vegetative finished completely, we developed the animate level. Well, nature developed it, not us obviously. And then we started the human level. And once human level, in its form, in the corporeal form, had finished, the beginning of the spiritual state began. And that's actually, maybe I should have extended it a bit more. Let's bring it all the way to here. That's where Adam is. And once the human development was finalized in its corporeality through generations, the spiritual man started here with Adam. And what happened then was a tremendous growth in our egoism. And that egoism, which is in the span of time is now for us, and this is ego, so our egoism, grew also in the still vegetative, animate, and human levels until 1995, where the human ego grew to its max, and the dots in the heart started to awaken at a societal level, at a human level, where spirituality started to really come alive. If you're from the 90s, if you like grew up in the 90s, or in your teens or your mature ages in the 90s, you'll note that after 1995, in the 90s, there were a lot of new books about spirituality, about New Age spirituality. People all of a sudden start getting all spiritual. And that's the time when Kabbalah is saying at the end of the 20th century, in fact, the writers of the Zohar said at the end of the 20th century, people will start to look for answers. And Baal Salam, earlier in the middle of the 20th century, he wrote also saying that my books will be studied from 1995 onwards, because that's when the generation will be ready. And what does it mean to be ready? It means to come to a mature egoistic state where we can't be fulfilled anymore in the current state that we're in. And from there on, we need to seek something additional, something more that we feel will fulfill us. And that is the spiritual impression, that spiritual urge that awakens inside of us, that dot in the heart. So humanity also had to go through thousands of years of development in its still, vegetative, animate, human levels, until at the societal level, at the more mass level, the spiritual inside of us could develop. And that's why a lot of people now study Kabbalah, a lot of people study a lot of spiritual methods, because they just feel that this life needs to give us something more than the still, vegetative, animate and the human levels. And what are these still, vegetative, animate and human levels? We discussed before. This is sex, family or companionship, and food, which are desires we need to have in order to survive at the corporeal level. And then we have the vegetative level, which is actually just trying to get rich. Just like plants, they try to go higher than the other plants around them to reach to the sun. Also in society, we have people who want to get rich, which is actually a vegetative state of living. Can you believe that? It's like living like a cabbage. And then we've got the animate level, which is actually honor. So this is why politicians, they're like animals. They like to have their own borders, right? This is what also animals have, right? Lion has his own hunting territory. Wolves, they also have their own territory. So all the animals have a territory that they live in, and same with us as well. All the countries have their borders, and the politicians like to think they run the show, and they're living at the animate level. And the human level, inside the human level, is actually knowledge. So all the scientists, pure scientists, not the ones who use already discovered science for technology. No, I'm not talking about those scientists. I'm talking about scientists that are really seeking the laws of nature, the knowledge behind how creation works. That's real science. And when they come to despair from that as well, there's only one question left, isn't there? Well, why are we living? Okay? And once we discover that none of these levels are actually fulfilling our desire to receive anymore, we ask the question, well, why are we living? What's the purpose of it all? And that is when the dot in the heart awakens inside a person. And this is the whole state that we've been going through. And throughout these hundreds of years of our development, we've gone through this state called globalization, which has led us to realize that the whole of creation is just interconnected. All right? If you have, for example, a pair of jeans on you, you'll know that the machinery is made somewhere in Europe, it's manufactured somewhere in China, the raw materials come somewhere from Asia or the Middle East, I don't know, the buttons come from some other place. So it takes like 14 countries to make a pair of jeans. Okay, so isn't that weird? And imagine all the cars and the machinery and everything that we're building. Everything is connected to everything. So once now we have a problem in one country, all the countries have a problem. And this is like our society as well. When inside a society, a group of people have a problem, the whole society has a problem. And because of globalization now, if there's one problem with one country, everybody's feeling the heat. The reason it needs to be that way is because life has to show us that we're all interconnected inside one interconnected overall creation, or inside one overall connected system. And in order for us to participate in this interconnected system, life has to show us that we're all interconnected and we don't have any other choice but to cooperate and to connect amongst us properly, which you may recall from previous lessons. Okay? Now imagine that we have to all connect, and we know why we need to connect. Imagine all those people around the world who also have to connect, and they have no idea why they need to do that. So, I guess we're going to have to teach. Alright, so just like we're all connected, we're all trying to connect. All of humanity, all of creation, in fact, has to participate in this overall one big creation, and everybody has to connect properly so that we can all come to the purpose of creation. However, we must start with the people with the dot in the heart, because they're the ones with the question, they're the ones who voluntarily want to do that, and that's how we come to a Kabbalistic group. And we study. So from tribes, from living up on the trees, we have come to living in each other's faces. Okay, and from there on, we have to now develop to our new level. Just like, well, our situations are much different from the animate level. Monkeys live in the forest, and if you think about our lives, we live in a concrete jungle. So things haven't changed much except the necessity, and the necessity has come to us due to an increase in our suffering globally. So due to the suffering, we're asking the question, why are we living? And on top of that, we have to come to a solution. And the solution have been given to us by Kabbalists, who's saying there's a purpose to life, and there's a purpose to all of these millions and billions of years that we kind of left behind us. And that reason now has to be applied and realized in our generation. And if we don't do that, well, pretty soon we're going to have an economic crisis. 2018 is not looking very good. And also, as you know, there are two guys on the planet, one little short guy in Asia and another one with ginger hair on the other side of the planet, who are having a bit of a quarrel. And because of them two, we might even get into a big mess. And we might see rockets flying all over the place. All right, so humanity is going from one suffering to another, and in order to prevent that, in order to develop in a proper way, what we can do is develop consciously, and that conscious development and that conscious participation inside of reality is called the study of Kabbalah, through which we can come to an understanding of how the Creator is thinking, how He created the whole of creation in order for us to also attain His level of existence. And the whole of that procedure is called spiritual development, until we come to the final goal of being just like the Creator. And all of that in a nutshell. Right then, gotta drink something. Any questions there, mate?
We got a lot of questions. We're ready to nail them down. I'm just gonna go just from what was most relevant, while it's still a little bit hot on the topic. I just want to thank Claire from looks like from the UK. Very excited to have you with us, Claire. We see that you're very interested and you show a big desire. And it's very important to send in the questions so everyone can see that you're excited, and maybe your questions will spark more questions, and we'll get more out of the lesson. So first, let's just go to one of her questions. She said, "Why was there a huge growth in egoism when spiritual growth began?"
That's a really good question. Well, first of all, we have to understand that the Creator wants to bring us to the highest level possible. In order to get to the highest level possible, I need to be able to receive all that. So it's kind of like my dad trying to give me $10 billion, and I'm coming to him with my coffee cup and saying, can you please squeeze all that in there? And he's saying, listen, you have to come with a lot of luggages so we can fill them all up. And this is how really it really is. The Creator wants to give us everything, but He needs to fulfill that desire to receive, which is us. So that desire to receive needs to be something huge. So imagine you want to give your kids, have you got children? So if you've got children, you probably know that you can only feed them as much as they can eat. So if they're small, they're only going to be, drinking a little bit of milk. But as they grow up, they're going to be eating much more because their vessels are more. So in order for the Creator to fulfill our vessels of reception, He needed to create a huge desire to receive. Because if He's like, I don't know, the richest king on the planet with a huge treasury, and He wants to give it to His son, and then his son or daughter is going to need a big vault to put that all in. And that's why He needed to create a huge desire to receive. In order to receive all that, egoism had to be, because we're a desire to receive pleasure. We want to be happy in life. We want to be happy in everything. We just want to be fulfilled. We are a fulfillment desiring machine. And in order to fulfill all that, with everything that the Creator has, we need to have a big desire to receive. But this big desire to receive must come to ripeness. And that ripeness is to want what the Creator wants to give us. So instead of running around wanting a new pair of jeans and trying to be happy with that, the Creator is saying, come on guys, get serious. I can give you everything which is to be just like me. And you can create your own worlds and be in this I don't know, reality which is just endless power, endless pleasure. So why are you guys mucking around with cars and houses and jeans on this planet? So He needed to give us a boost, and that boost is called ego. So egoism is actually a force of development. If we didn't have any, we'd live like animals, because animals don't have egoism. They're just a desire to receive. This is why they're just happy with mating, with eating, and just living and then dying. And if we didn't have this ego, this extra urge to get more, want more, know more, have more, control more, then we'd never be able to get to the Creator. Why? Because the Creator has all these things. He has the power for everything. He has all the riches. Not quite like money we imagine, but imagine being able to create a whole reality. That's pretty cool. So in order for us to want to be like Him, to attain His thought, He needed to develop us in such a way that we'd want that. And that's egoism. So you gotta love it, but you gotta put a leash on it. Yes.
So that brings us to our next question. That kind of sums it. It says, why does the cycle of development take so long? It seems like it takes a long time.
It does take a long time, and so does spiritual development. You might not be happy to know, but look, doesn't it take time for us humans to grow as well? Because we have to, just like Claire asked now, we have to come to build such a vessel, such a desire to receive, that'll take everything. And you can't just have that in one little shot, because you need it to go through so many discernments, so many emotions and feelings it needs to go through in order to build itself up. Just like kids take ages to grow. I mean, if you compare a chicken with a man, right? A chicken comes out of the egg, a little chicklet, and they start walking straight away. Right? They just all of a sudden they're walking after their mum, or ducks. But humans, I mean, we're born, by the time we get to walk, it's like what, 9 months, 12 months? We start this, struggling around. it just takes ages. However, when you compare a fully grown man or a fully grown human or a woman with a chicken, you understand that the human is far greater than the chicken, right? Okay, so speed is an advantage in this situation. So that development needs to happen for all the impressions to settle down, for all the maturity to develop, to come to all those understandings. It's a whole process. It's a huge process. Also, just one more. Also, our spiritual development takes years as well. All right, so don't expect, I'm here, took the first semester, let's get spiritual. I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, so we have to be patient. Just like kids grow, we have to go through the second semester and then the third semester, and then I think you'll all be ready to feel the Creator.
So is it possible for someone at this stage in development, I guess in the development of the desires, like in one of the drawings that you drew earlier, the still vegetative animate and all that, so we're now at the last stage. Is it someone who's at the last stage of that development? Is it possible that they'll never even want to come to the purpose of creation? That they won't even ask what's the purpose?
They might not. They might not, because you're getting into deep topics now. And I'll tell you why. Because humanity, the whole of humanity is one humanity, right? So this is the whole of humanity. It's one humanity, just like one body, right? Let's say we have one body with all the organs, the cells, all the parts of the body and everything. And our whole body is managed by what? By one little thing in our brain the size of a pea. Should I draw that green so it's more like a pea then? Alright, so this is a pea. And that is it. So in our head, we have one dot, and that governs the whole body. Imagine that. So in the whole of humanity, there's going to be a group of people with the dots in the heart who need to make sure they attain the Creator. So they unite with the Creator. And then they have to be a channel for the rest of humanity, for all the other parts here. This is why sometimes people ask, well, why doesn't everybody just wake up at the same time? Why can't we just all ask the same question? What's the meaning of my life all together? Because there's a structure to creation. Just like our body is a structure. So in the whole of humanity, those with the dot in the heart must attain the purpose of life and be a Rosh, or be a head for the rest of humanity. And then what's going to happen? What's going to happen is these people are also going to develop, and they will also participate actively, everyone according to their own level. Just like in life, right? We have one generation that knows, and they teach the second generation, and then the second generation teaches the third generation. Why does it work like that? Well, it works like that because it brings development at a maturity. It develops maturely, can't say it. It develops humanity layer by layer, and we begin to digest everything that the previous generations lived as well. So this is why not everybody wakes up at the same time. Why? Because it gives the opportunity for those who are awake to bestow to the others. And once this layer becomes bigger, then they'll begin to bestow. Otherwise you can't. It's like you can't raise your own kids. Otherwise, it's like it's like raising kids. in order for the parents to know what looking after kids are, in order to know what being a parent is, you have to have kids, right? So in order to know what the Creator is like, you need to bestow. But who are you going to bestow to? So we start bestowing. When you come to the group, you start bestowing within the group, right, amongst each other, yeah? And then as you grow up spiritually, then, truth be told, you bestow to others around you. And then, it's like you guys, right? So we're teaching you right now. And then later, you're going to be helping others. And then they're going to be helping others. And then the whole of humanity will have to, whether they like it or not, come to the purpose of life. And they will love to, because our corporeal life will just get worse. Our life will not get better. I know there are some very optimistic people out there. They go, think good, think positive, and it'll be positive. I don't think that works. Do you? After all the thousands of years we've gone through, I don't think that works at all. So what will happen is life will begin to squeeze all of humanity. We'll go through economic problems. We'll go through ecological problems. 2018, it's going to be hot. When I say hot, it's going to be exciting. I mean, it's right on the economic level, ecological level, we're going to be squeezed by nature. On the one hand, nature will squeeze us. On the other hand, the way we're living and the way we brought it upon ourselves will start to squeeze us. We'll see a lot of unemployment, economic problems, especially in the financial industry. We'll see all those crumbling, a lot of dramas, and through suffering and from being squeezed on both sides, life will not offer us any other option but to get spiritual. Did I do all that talking and then there's no questions?
Well, I mean, we do have a lot of questions, and you're just kind of leading into the next one. Like Mike from South Africa, and also Luis from Brighton. So Luis is saying, well, realistically, when do you think humanity will come together? Like, you know, how will it look when everyone's attained the Creator? And also, Mike says, does Kabbalah promote proselytization? You know, I guess you kind of mentioned it right now. Proselytization is not like, you know, we have to convert everyone to study Kabbalah. It doesn't work that way.
No, guys, first of all, yeah, it definitely doesn't work because it has to have one fundamental ingredient, okay? If it was to work like that, we'd all be out on the streets telling everyone to study Kabbalah, but that would make us like missionaries, right? And then that's just not going to work, as you can see. It hasn't worked for any religion. No, the important thing here is the dot in the heart. A person must want to know the purpose of life. He needs to, or she needs to ask, why am I living? What's the purpose of it all? It's like a short life. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not getting any taste from life. So those questions have to pop up. And the reason why we have so many books, we have a lot of material on the internet, videos, you know, articles, everything, is because if a person asks, that he or she should find an answer, because it's a fundamental question. And if they don't find an answer, they get into drugs, they get into depression, alcohol abuse, violence. Because why are we going through all those things? Why do people become terrorists, drug addicts, alcoholics? Because they just don't know what to do with themselves anymore. This world just doesn't cut it anymore. So a person needs to also help humanity be enlightened. We don't have to bring the rest of the planet to Kabbalah. I don't think the rest of the planet will want to study Kabbalah. But one thing is for sure, everybody in the world wants to have a good life. And that's definitely true because our nature wants to have a good life. And by changing the way we relate to each other, without even talking about Kabbalah, we can actually begin to build a heaven on earth by just changing the way we live. Instead of being egoistic, we can just try to be more friendly. We can try to be more considerate. We can really start and, you know, apply sharing is caring rather than saying sharing is caring. So we just need to make that change, and I think the suffering that will be coming as well to humanity at a general level will make it easier for people to understand that we do have to change the way we live. And that's what Kabbalah is actually explaining. We just have to change the way we live. Kabbalah, from our point of view, from our perspective, Kabbalah is a social science, really. It's a social science where if you use it properly, you can change the way you relate to reality through society and then attain a higher level of consciousness. That's it. Anything else in the last 3 minutes, Mr. Jones?
In the last 3 minutes, let's go ahead and try and take one more. And you kind of touched it right now, and I think in our times it's good to answer this question. And also about what you just said now, for people who study Kabbalah now, people who have an urge to come and study and know about the purpose of creation, those are the people that generally are going to be the ones that are doing the corrections, doing this kind of work and being with a group and learning about the connections between us and trying to connect the connections between us. Well, then there's another layer, like in your diagram here. Well, all they need to know is that connection is good for me, it's good for the world, it's good for my ego, and that's fine for them. So there's different layers and it unfolds.
Absolutely. You know what? For example, all of us use mobile phones, right? But I don't really know how they made that. I just use it. Okay, because I just use it because it makes my life practical, but I don't know how they made it, how they came up with it, and I don't really care. So humanity's next level is going to be like, okay, you know what? We need to, I don't know, we need to take care of each other because I don't care how they came up with it because it's practical and we can live better.
Right.
So just think of it like that. It's a new technology, and this new technology, it just requires us to adapt.
So like Steffi from Romania, she said in the very beginning, her first question for the whole chat was, so there are people who kill and violate women and hurt children, etc., but is there really no evil in them?
We can't really say, I mean, there is evil because we see evil. Okay, so I can't say there is no evil in the world when I obviously see evil. Okay, that would just be lying to myself, and that would be very unrealistic, and we don't do unrealistic work. A person has to understand that there is evil, and then we have to understand the cause of that evil, and then how we can fix that evil. And this is the whole process that we're going through in humanity. We'll need to come to a state where we understand that we're just bad. We're just bad. That our egoistic nature is horrible and we have to fix it. And that flipping point is to understand that we need to fix it. Then we'll be able to teach humanity much more easily. We'll say, oh guys, I'm so glad you finally realized that egoism is bad because we've got a solution on how to fix it. And then we'll see global change.
That's what they say. 90% of solving a problem is recognizing what the problem is in the first place.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's what
like early analysis we need.
Mm-hmm. So that's where we are. We're finishing. Yeah.
How many people are we today?
Well, we are up to 15 people. It's 15 with us. So
okay, it's really disappointing because I just spoke to one of my friends and he gave a lecture on Facebook, just an introduction one, and there were 3,000 people and 400 people registered. Oh, that is just huge, and that's in French. I mean, he was doing it in French, so, and in English. The whole planet speaks English, and we're just 15 people.
Hey, so the 15 people that are here, they're the ones that need to be here right now. They have to hear this.
All right, great.
We'll work on it. We'll work on it.
Hopefully, we'll get more people on board, because we'll see that more people will come as they start to ask how to solve problems. So I'm glad. Well, 15 is good because in spirituality, it's all about what? Quality and not quantity. It's like having a few friends, but having a really good few friends instead of having 100 of them who are dying to just backstab you.
Well, it's actually going to be better though, because when we have Zoom, I wanted to mention Zoom one more time. Mm-hmm. We mentioned in the beginning, and there's some people who joined later. This 15 is gonna be, it's a nice crowd. It's very comfortable. When we enter into the next semester, we'll have you know, you'll see 15 faces. You'll finally see faces that you've been with them already for 2 semesters now, and you get to sit with them, and you'll be able to talk with them like you're in your own virtual meeting room, and it's very successful, and we're very excited to present that. So I want to again refer to the www.zoom.us, just like it sounds. Zoom.us. Go ahead and download it now. Go ahead and go to the website now while we're still talking about it, while you're still in front of your computer. Go there, download it now, and just get familiar with it. Open it up, see how everything works. Basically, you'll get a meeting ID, which will either be I think it'll probably be the same.
You can in fact go in with your Facebook or your Gmail account or whatever
to register. Yeah,
so you can just register and sign up. Just download it. Just have it on your mobile or your iPad or your laptop, whatever.
Anything with a camera and microphone, so we can hear you and see.
Yeah, and that's it. Now, and next week when we get on there, we'll explain how to use it.
Yeah, we'll get into more details. Sure.
Okay, but just have it ready. Just peruse through the website and see what it's all about, and then it's just very easy. All you have to do is press that link that we send you on the moderation board or on the chat board or whatever.
Sure. And we just want you to, we want it to be smooth without any technical difficulties. So basically, the next steps, like Claire is asking, it's a good question. The next steps, basically, you're gonna get an email. You'll be notified. We're just continuing as usual. No different platforms, no different anything. But in this time, instead of meeting here, we'll meet on Zoom. So you'll just click on the Zoom link. It'll take you to a thing. It'll go doom doom, and you'll be welcomed in. You'll see some names of people. You won't really know what's going on, and then you'll see the studio. We'll log in, and you'll see the frame of the studio, and we'll kind of be here, but it'll just be a little bit different because you can see faces and you can hear people. So basically, that's how it's going to be. It'll be nice and smooth, and we're very excited. We hope that you'll continue with us to the next to that lesson. And I think it'll be Tuesday at 19 UK time and
19 GMT.
GMT. So there you are. What? Good idea. Yeah, we'll write the times.
So as usual. Tuesday.
As usual.
Okay, Tuesday. As usual. All right.
Sure.
Nothing changes. 19 GMT. That makes 8 p.m. London. I think. Anyway, you'll get the email. Okay, let's not get confused. We're going to love you. We're going to leave you. We're already 4 minutes late. Take care of yourselves. See you guys next Tuesday. All the best.